So again, going back, I think that's where some, you can call it cynicism, but or you could just say it's just that's how committees work, whatever you want to call it. But the committees, I think it's hard to be very faithful even in committees with good people on them, because there's nothing saying that committee's recommendations are going to be adhered to or that they're going to have any executive force or anything like that. So committees are difficult. Faculty handbook have multiple demonstrations of not being something worth trusting very much. Faculty Senate is often related, tied up with trying to defend faculty handbook. So I'm curious where you think an OU faculty, that is a research university without collective bargaining, where its faith should rely.
Well, I think Alan's actually came up with an interesting idea in the sense that what you have stated was, as a department, we need to offer music theory that's organic, that's part of our curriculum. So hence, the notion that we're going to kick 2 graduate students out and actually do anything of any good is precisely the type of argument that I would envision, where it comes up organically through departments. You talk about professional standards and say, look, it doesn't, I mean, first off, A, you're probably not going to save yourself that much money, but B, you really do threaten our academic mission by doing this. And I mean, I would just so strongly caution against spelling out 10% cuts. It is an incredibly dangerous strategy. I know people say, well, worse people will come along and they'll do worser things, so if we do really not so worse things, we'll protect ourselves. That is the dumbest strategy in the world. I was talking to a person who's not, his school is not represented up here, and I'll just give you the story, but he was asked about 2 years ago, find us a person in your school that we can cut so that we can save money. And he said, essentially, no, I'm not going to do it. He said, could you imagine if I had mentioned who could be cut and they didn't cut that person? What do you think that person would be doing right now? Do you think they would have a great deal of loyalty to their department? Or, I mean, what you set up by saying, we'll do a better job, so hence we'll kind of march along with this, is very dangerous. I think it's going to wind up very often biting people in the rear end later down the road. I would say that what Kevin's asking is that this should organically come out of departments. Now, I'm not a big department self-governance things because I think departments can have problems within themselves. But if I have to spot anything, I think it's time for departments to start saying, we can't do this sort of thing. And we're not going to offer it up to you. We're not going to put our heads on the guillotine and say, go ahead, if you want to lift the blade, go ahead and do it. We are simply saying we can't do it. So I think it should come up organically out of the departments, even though I'm not necessarily, I mean, I can imagine within my own department, I would probably be having a lot of battles with fellow faculty members about where, what we should do and things like that. But if I have to go with anything, I go with the departments over going versus ad hoc committees versus faculty senate versus any of these, because I think they have the closest attention being paid to the professional standards and what it means to be educators.
I think.
Can I make ask for one more question, or do you want to?
I was just going to comment that one of the things too that we've noticed historically over the last several years is that these budget numbers are draconian, usually this time of year. They're horrible numbers, and they persist in being horrible till about April or May, when suddenly, after the decision about the faculty raise is made, they suddenly get better. And we've seen that persistently over the last several years, and this past year is a case in point, where we agreed to a $1.2 million cost to us as a faculty for health care in the face of these draconian numbers, and they used it to support the football team.
Maybe that's the point I had. Well, say no more.
Be careful what you
read your post today.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.